Chosen one, arrest your thoughts and center your spirit right now. You did not find this video. Your spirit summoned it. God is shouting finally over your life, but not for the reason you think. You think He is saying finally because you have been patient? No. Patience is passive. What you just accomplished in the spiritual realm was not patience. It was a hostile takeover. You are the first one in your bloodline to complete the impossible task of breaking a generational failure code that has stopped every ancestor before you. They reached this wall and fell. You reached this wall and broke through. The stress test is over. The prototype has passed. 2026 is not just a new year. It is your coronation year. Open your spirit to receive the truth that changes everything. But before we go any deeper into the specific impossible task you have just completed, I need you to make a decision. The revelation I am about to release contains the specific instructions for your next 40 days. It includes the 7 forms of confrontation the enemy will launch to try and steal your crown, and the sealing prayer that will lock in your new timeline. If you leave halfway through, you are walking into a battlefield without your armor. Do not let distraction rob you of this manual. Commit to watching until the very last second, because the blessing is in the finish, not the start. Now, let us go to the truth. I know exactly where you are right now. I do not mean your physical location. I mean the location of your soul. You are sitting in your car, parked in front of your house or your workplace. The engine is off. The radio is silent. But you are not getting out. You are just staring at the steering wheel, gripping it until your knuckles turn white. There is a heaviness behind your eyes, a pressure that feels like unshed tears that have calcified into stone. You are exhausted. Not the kind of tired that sleep can fix, but the kind of soul fatigue that comes from waiting for a train that never seems to arrive. There is a raw, unfiltered thought that you have been too afraid to speak out loud, but it screams in your head at 3 a.m. when the world is quiet. You look at your life, then you look at the people around you. You see people with half your integrity getting double your results. You see people who cut corners living in the overflow that you prayed for, and the voice in your head whispers, God, did you forget me? Did I miss the turn? Am I being punished? You feel like you are on pause while the rest of the world is on fast forward. You feel deleted. You feel like a file that was lost in the celestial system. But listen to me closely. That heaviness you feel in your chest right now, that is not the weight of rejection. That is the weight of construction. You are not deleted. You are deployed. The reason your journey has been so excruciatingly slow, the reason you face resistance that would crush an average person, is not because you are cursed. It is because you are the first one. You are the prototype. Think about how a manufacturer builds a car. The prototype is the first one made. It is the one they put in the crash test chamber. They slam it into walls at high speed. They subject it to extreme heat and extreme cold. They put it under pressure that the mass-produced cars will never have to face. Why? Not because they hate the prototype, but because the prototype carries the safety code for every car that comes after it. Chosen one. Look at your bloodline. Look at your family history. Who before you has successfully broken the cycle of poverty? Who before you has had a marriage that didn't end in bitterness? Who before you has walked in true spiritual authority? If the answer is no one, then that is your answer. You are the first one. The reason your road is not paved is because you are the one holding the machete. You are hacking through the jungle of generational trauma. The people coming after you will walk on a smooth road. and they will never know the price you paid to clear it. But you know, and God knows. This is the biblical pattern of the first one. Look at Joseph. He was the first one in Jacob's lineage to break the famine, but to do that, he had to be the first one to go into the pit. He had to be the first one to go into the prison. Psalm 105 says that in prison they bruised his feet with fetters, and his neck was put in irons. The Hebrew translation there literally says, his soul entered into the iron. Joseph was the prototype. His brothers were the mass production. His brothers stayed home. They lived normal lives. They didn't face the betrayal. They didn't face the isolation. But because they didn't face the pressure, they didn't carry the authority. When the famine came, the mass production had to come bow down to the prototype. You have been asking God, why is it so hard for me? It is hard because you are clearing the spiritual debris of 10 generations. You are not just fighting your demons. You are fighting your grandfather's demons and his father's demons. You are resolving debts you did not incur. You are healing wounds you did not inflict. That is the impossible task. And the reason God is shouting, finally, is because you didn't quit in the testing chamber. You stayed in the pressure until the carbon turned into diamond. You survived the crash test. And because you survived, the code is broken. The ceiling that stopped your father is now the floor you stand on. But listen to me, chosen one. Because you are the first one, because you are the prototype, you are susceptible to a very specific, very dangerous trap. It is a trap that the enemy sets only for the most faithful, the most loyal soldiers of God. Most chosen ones fall into this trap right at the edge of their breakthrough. They think they are doing the right thing. They think they are being holy, but actually, they are delaying their own coronation. You are falling into this trap right now, and you do not even realize it. It is called the trap of patience. Let us be honest about why this trap is so deadly. It is deadly because it looks like holiness. It looks like righteousness. For years, you have been told that patience is a virtue. You have been told that good things come to those who wait. You have sat in church pews and heard sermons about waiting on the Lord, about how God's timing is perfect, and how you must endure hardship like a good soldier. And you have done exactly that, chosen one. I want to validate you right now. You have the spiritual stamina of a giant. While others walked away from God when things got tough, you stayed. While others compromised their values to get quick money or quick relationships, you stood your ground. You accepted the silence of heaven as a test of your loyalty. You looked at your empty bank account, your empty bed, or your stagnant career, and you whispered to yourself, God is preparing me. He is taking his time because the blessing is big. You have anchored your soul to scriptures like James chapter 1 verse 4. But let patience have her perfect work, that ye may be perfect and entire, wanting nothing. You read that, and you internalized it. You told yourself that the reason the breakthrough hasn't happened yet is because you are not perfect yet. You thought, if I just endure a little more, if I just fix this one character flaw, if I just pray a little harder, then I will be wanting nothing. You have treated patience like a currency. You believe that if you save up enough coins of suffering, eventually you can buy your breakthrough. You are not alone in this. Let me tell you about someone who fell into this exact trap. Let's call her Sarah. I want you to see her clearly because her story is likely mirroring yours right now. Sarah knew she was called to be a kingdom financier. She had a vision of funding orphanages and building ministries. But for 10 years, Sarah lived paycheck to paycheck. I want you to zoom in on Sarah's life 3 years ago. It is Tuesday night. She is sitting at her kitchen table. The only light comes from the screen of her laptop and a single candle she lit to create an atmosphere of faith. On the screen is her bank account balance. It is double digits. Again, she closes her eyes and lets out a breath that shakes her entire frame. She reaches for her prayer journal. It is a black notebook, worn at the edges. She flips through the pages. Page 1. A prophecy from 2016 promising abundance. Page 50. A prophecy from 2019 promising overflow. Page 100. A prophecy from 2022 promising a shift. She picks up her pen, and her hand trembles slightly as she writes the date. And then she writes the same sentence she has written for a decade. Lord, I am still waiting. I trust you. Mold me. Make me humble. I am your servant. She stands up and walks to her refrigerator. It is covered in magnets of places she wants to visit and scriptures about provision. She straightens a magnet that says, "They that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength." She touches it with her index finger, pressing hard, as if trying to push the promise into her reality. Sarah did everything right. She tithed when she couldn't afford it. She served in the ushers' ministry every Sunday, smiling at people who were living the life she was promised. She never complained. She never got bitter. She was the picture of perfect patience. And in her mind, this was the deal. I suffer in silence now, so God will reward me publicly later. She believed that the delay was God's way of ensuring she wouldn't become arrogant when the money came. She believed God was killing her flesh so her spirit could handle the weight of glory. This is the logic of delay that most chosen ones live by. We rationalize the silence. We tell ourselves that God is hiding us to protect us. We tell ourselves that we are in the incubator. And there is truth to that. There are seasons of hiding. There are seasons of preparation. But there is a difference between being hidden and being stuck. Sarah was not being hidden. She was stuck. And she was stuck because she thought the test was about how long she could endure the pain. She thought the impossible task was to survive the waiting room without screaming. So, what happened to Sarah? Did she get the breakthrough? Yes. Eventually, a door opened. A small business inheritance came from a distant relative. It wasn't the millions she dreamed of, but it was enough to start. Everyone in her circle cheered. They said, "See? God is faithful. Your patience paid off." Sarah smiled. She cried. She testified. But here is the part of the story nobody talks about. Here is the part that will make your stomach drop. When the money came, Sarah couldn't move. She paralyzed. For 10 years, she had trained herself to be a waiter. She had trained herself to ask for permission. She had trained herself to survive on crumbs. So, when the feast arrived, she starved. She was afraid to invest. She was afraid to give. She hoarded the resource because her identity was still trapped in the scarcity of the waiting room. She had the money of a queen, but the mindset of a slave. Within 2 years, the business stagnated. The inheritance dwindled. Sarah found herself back at that kitchen table, staring at a double-digit bank account, opening that worn-out journal to write, "Lord, I am waiting again." She passed the patience test, chosen one. She waited 10 years without cursing God, but she failed the sovereignty test. She didn't know how to rule because she spent too much time learning how to suffer. And this is where I need you to pause and let this sink into your spirit. Sarah nearly lost her destiny, not because she was impatient, but because she was too patient. She treated a season of warfare like a season of waiting. She sat down when she should have stood up. She endured what she should have evicted. God showed me that for many of you watching this, patience has become a defense mechanism. It is safer to say, God is making me wait, than to admit, I don't know how to manifest. It is safer to be a humble servant in the hallway than a ruler in the throne room who has to make hard decisions. You have been wearing your patience like a badge of honor. You have been showing heaven your scars, saying, look how much I can take. Look how good I am at suffering. But God is not looking for professional sufferers in 2026. He is looking for rulers. He is looking for disruptors. He is looking for cycle breakers. The impossible task that you are the first one to complete is not to wait another year. It is not to endure another cycle of disappointment with a smile on your face. Sarah's story is a warning, not a blueprint. If you continue to simply wait, you will die waiting. Or worse, you will receive the blessing and destroy it because you still think like a prisoner. The trap is sprung. You are caught in the illusion that your passivity is piety. But the Spirit of God is shaking the cage right now. He is about to show you that the key was never about how long you could hold your breath. It was about something much more dangerous. Something that requires you to stop acting like a servant and start acting like a son who holds the deed to the estate. The real test of 2026 is not patience. It is a force that most religious people are terrified of. It is the one thing that actually moves the hand of God when patience has stopped working. That force is sovereignty. Chosen one, listen to me as if your life depends on it, because the quality of your next 10 years depends on you grasping this shift. The flip is happening right now. God does not need you to be patient anymore. He needs you to be sovereign. For years, you have confused waiting with submission. You thought that sitting still while the enemy ravaged your finances was an act of holy surrender. You thought that staying silent while chaos ruled your home was an act of meekness. But God is saying to you today, I did not call you to be a survivor of your circumstances. I called you to be the ruler of them. This is the sovereignty revelation. There is a massive difference between waiting and ruling in darkness. Waiting is passive. It says, I hope God changes this. Ruling is active. It says, I will steward this darkness until it bows to the light within me. Look at Joseph in the prison again. We love to talk about his patience, but if you read Genesis carefully, Joseph did not just sit in the corner of his cell marking days on the wall, waiting for God to rescue him. The Bible says the keeper of the prison committed to Joseph's hand all the prisoners that were in the prison, and whatsoever they did there, he was the doer of it. Do you hear that? Joseph was in a dungeon, but he was operating as a king. He reorganized the prison. He managed the resources. He interpreted dreams. He took dominion over his square footage of hell. He did not wait for the palace to become a ruler. He practiced sovereignty in the pit. And this brings us to the uncomfortable question that has plagued the church for centuries. This is the loop that keeps you awake at night. Why are there so many chosen ones who are holy, who are kind, who pray in tongues, who love Jesus, but who are broke, defeated, and living in perpetual chaos? You have seen them. Maybe you are looking at one in the mirror. You ask, God, if I am your child, why am I living like an orphan? Here is the answer that will liberate you. It is not because of sin. It is not because of a lack of faith. It is because of a lack of sovereignty. You have been acting like a beggar in the house of your father. You have been asking God to do things that He has already authorized you to do. You are begging God to rebuke the devourer in your finances, but God gave you the authority to steward your resources. You are begging God to bring peace to your mind, But God gave you the power to take every thought captive. God is not a micromanager. He is a king who delegates. And when he sees his children refusing to take up their authority, refusing to govern their emotions, refusing to govern their atmosphere, hiding behind the mask of patience, he cannot release the next level of power. So the flip is this: the impossible task you completed was not surviving the pain. It was maintaining your royal identity when everything around you screamed that you were a slave. If you kept your integrity when you were broke, you practiced sovereignty. If you blessed those who cursed you, you practiced sovereignty. You were ruling in the dark. But now, we have to go deeper. We have to do the shadow work. Because right now, there is a part of you that is recoiling from this word. There is a part of you that prefers the message of patience over the message of sovereignty. Why? Why would you choose to be a victim rather than a victor? Because patience is safe. Sovereignty is dangerous. If you are just waiting on God, then everything that goes wrong is God's fault. You are innocent. You are just the poor, suffering servant. You get to keep your victim story. You get to keep the sympathy of others. There is a strange comfort in the dungeon, because in the dungeon, you don't have to make decisions. In the dungeon, you don't have to take responsibility. But if you accept your sovereignty, if you accept that you are a king or a queen in the spirit, then you are responsible. You have to stand up. You have to speak. You have to cut things off. You have to set boundaries. And that terrifies you. I want you to validate that fear right now. Do not run from it. You are afraid of power because you have been hurt by people with power. You have seen leaders abuse their authority. You have seen fathers rule with anger. You have seen bosses rule with greed. And deep down, in the rawest part of your subconscious, you think, if I take power, will I become like them? If I stop being the humble sufferer and start being the bold ruler, will I lose my connection to God? That fear is the reason you self-sabotage every time you get close to a breakthrough. That fear is why you retreat into patience every time God hands you a sword. But listen to me. The fact that you are afraid of power is the exact proof that you are the only one safe enough to handle it. The arrogant do not fear power. They crave it. The narcissistic do not fear ruling. They feel entitled to it. Your fear is your qualification. It proves you have the heart of a servant, which is the only requirement for the mantle of a king. So right now, we are going to change your posture. We are not going to do this physically. I want you to do this in the spirit realm, where it actually matters. I want you to imagine yourself standing outside the throne room of God. For years, you have entered this room on your belly. You have crawled in, head down, listing your problems, showing your wounds, begging for a crumb of relief. You have identified as the beggar. But today, God is calling for the first one. He is calling for the prototype. In your mind, I want you to stand up. Feel your spiritual spine straighten. Lift your chin. Do not look at the floor. Look at the door. You are not crashing a party. You are walking into your Father's office. Imagine you are wearing the robe of a ruler. It is heavy. It feels like responsibility. It feels like dignity. Now, walk through that door. Do not ask for permission. You have the blood of the King. Stop asking God to take the problem away. Instead, stand before him and say, Father, I am here to receive my orders. I am here to receive the strategy to dismantle this problem. I am done waiting for the rescue boat. I am ready to walk on the water. Feel that shift, that sudden heat in your chest? That is sovereignty coming online. That is the feeling of the victim dying and the victor rising. This king's posture is the key to the 2026 timeline. The enemy can handle your patience. He has been mocking your patience for years. But he cannot handle your sovereignty. When you stop waiting for the storm to pass and start commanding the peace to come, the enemy panics. You have broken the addiction to victimhood. You have accepted the mantle of responsibility. You are no longer the one who waits. You are the one who reigns. So now that you have stopped begging and started ruling, now that you have picked up your scepter, what is the first order of business? What is the specific mission that requires this level of authority? You might think it is to get money. You might think it is to get married. You might think it is to start a ministry. No, those are side effects. The primary mission, the impossible task that only a sovereign chosen one can accomplish, is much closer to home. In fact, it is inside your veins right now. You have to destroy something. You have to govern something that has been ungovernable for centuries. If you are ready to wield your new authority, look at your hands, look at your skin. Beneath the surface, there is a code written in your DNA. It is a failure code. It is a program that was installed by the trauma of your ancestors, designed to shut you down every time you reach a certain level of success. It is the reason you self-destruct when things get good. It is the reason you feel a ceiling you cannot see. And breaking this code is the real reason God said, finally. This is the moment where we stop looking at the symptoms and we finally look at the root. The impossible task that you are the first in your bloodline to complete is the destruction of the ancestral failure code. I want you to come with me to a specific place in your mind. I want you to walk down the hallway of your childhood home, or perhaps open that old shoebox of photographs that you keep in the closet. I want you to visualize a picture of your father, or your mother, or your grandparents. Look at their faces. Look past their smiles. Look into their eyes. What do you see? You see love, yes. You see resilience. But if you look closer, you see a stopping point. Maybe for your father, the stopping point was his anger. He could build a house, but he couldn't build a home because his temper burned down the emotional safety of his family. Maybe for your mother, the stopping point was her worthiness. She could serve everyone else. She could pour herself out until she was empty, but she could never receive. She died with her dreams still folded up in her pocket like a used tissue. Now, look at your own life. Have you ever noticed that you seem to hit an invisible wall at the exact same place they did? You start a business, it goes well for a while, and then right when you are about to cross the threshold into true wealth, something happens. A crisis, a bad decision, a sudden depression, and you slide back down to the baseline. Or you get into a relationship and it is healthy, it is good, but right when it gets deep, right when it gets real, you feel this irrational urge to run. You feel a coldness take over your heart, and you sabotage it. You look in the mirror and you see your father's anger staring back at you. You see your mother's fear. This is the question that haunts you. Why do I keep fighting battles I thought I had already won? Why does it feel like there is a rubber band around my waist, snapping me back to poverty, snapping me back to loneliness every time I try to run forward? The answer is not that you are weak. The answer is that you are hitting the ancestral ceiling. You are dealing with a failure code that is written in your blood. And to break it, we have to go deep into the theology of the bloodline. We have to unpack a Hebrew word that most churches are too afraid to teach. We are comfortable talking about sin. We confess our sins. We ask for forgiveness for our sins. But the Bible makes a terrifying distinction between sin and iniquity, and this distinction is the key to your freedom. The Hebrew word for sin is chatath. It means to miss the mark. It is an action. You told a lie. You missed the mark. You lost your temper. You missed the mark. That is an event. But there is another word. Exodus chapter 20, verse 5, says that God visits the iniquity of the fathers upon the children to the third and fourth generation. The Hebrew word used there is avon. Avon does not mean an action. Avon means a bend. It means a twist. It means a curvature. Imagine a bowling alley. If you throw the ball and you aim poorly, and it goes into the gutter, that is chatteth. You made a mistake. You can aim better next time, but imagine the lane itself is warped. Imagine the wood is twisted. It doesn't matter how straight you throw the ball. It doesn't matter how good your aim is. The curvature of the lane will pull the ball into the gutter every single time. This is what has been happening to you. You are not sinning. You are battling a bend. You are battling a twist in your spiritual DNA that pulls you toward divorce, pulls you toward addiction, pulls you toward scarcity, even when you are trying with all your might to go straight. Your ancestors created the bend. Through their trauma, through their agreements with darkness, through their unresolved pain, they warped the floorboards of your bloodline. And now, you are walking on a crooked floor, wondering why you can't stand up straight. This is why you feel like you are fighting a ghost. You are. You are fighting the Avon of your lineage. And science is finally catching up to scripture. We call it cellular memory. We call it epigenetics. Scientists have done studies where they took mice and exposed them to the smell of cherry blossoms and then immediately gave them a mild electric shock. Eventually, the mice became terrified of the smell of cherry blossoms. But here is the impossible part. Their children, who were never shocked, were terrified of the smell. Their grandchildren, who never met the grandfather mouse, were terrified of the smell. The trauma changed the DNA. The memory of the pain was passed down in the blood. Chosen one. I want you to engage in a mental action right now. I want you to scan your body. Close your eyes for a second if you can, or just turn your gaze inward. Locate that familiar anxiety. You know the one. That low-level hum of dread that sits in the pit of your stomach. That feeling that says, "Don't get too happy. Something bad is about to happen." That feeling that says, "We aren't safe with this much money." Now, I want you to ask that feeling a question. Ask it, "Is this mine?" Listen to the answer. Does that fear belong to you, or does it feel ancient? Does it feel like it was there before you were born? That fear of losing everything? That is your grandfather's fear from the days of the famine. That fear of abandonment? That is your grandmother's grief when she was left alone. You are carrying the emotional luggage of ghosts. You are living out the unhealed trauma of people who have been dead for decades. This is the ancestral ceiling. It is a spiritual thermostat. Think about the thermostat in your house. You set it to 70 degrees. If the temperature drops to 65, the heater kicks on to bring it back up. But if the temperature rises to 75, the air conditioner kicks on to bring it back down. Your bloodline has a set point. There is a set point for how much love you are allowed to receive. There is a set point for how much money you are allowed to keep. There is a set point for how much joy you are allowed to feel. Your ancestors set the thermostat. And every time you try to rise above that setting, every time you try to be the first one to be a millionaire, the first one to have a peaceful home, the failure code kicks in. The air conditioner turns on. The sabotage begins. The Avon pulls you back to the gutter. This is why you feel like you are fighting yourself. But you are not fighting yourself. You are fighting the thermostat. And this brings us back to the impossible task. God did not send you into this family just to survive the thermostat. He sent you to break it. He sent you to smash the glass. He sent you to straighten the bent lane. You are the correction. When God looks at your bloodline, He sees the twist. He sees the Avon. And He inserted you into this specific point in history to be the splint. You know what a splint does? It is a hard, straight object that is tied to a broken, crooked limb. It forces the limb to grow straight. It is painful to be the splint. It hurts to be the one who has to stand straight when everything around you is twisted. It hurts to be the one who says, "The abuse stops with me. The poverty stops with me. The silence stops with me." You are absorbing the pressure of generations. You are doing the heavy lifting for your children and your children's children. And this is why 2026 is so critical. This is why God is shouting, "Finally." Because you have finally identified the enemy. You have finally realized that you are not just trying to improve your life. You are trying to rewrite a code that has been executing for centuries. And you have done it. In the Spirit, you have already done it. By refusing to give up, by refusing to become bitter like your father, by refusing to hide like your mother, you have created a new pathway in the brain of your bloodline. You have created a new possibility. But I must warn you. I must give you the intelligence briefing for what happens next. Because when you break a code, the system crashes. When you smash a ceiling, the glass falls on you. And when you try to change the temperature of a bloodline, the immune system of that family will attack the intruder. And you, chosen one, you are the intruder. You are the foreign substance in a toxic body. You are the light in a room that has grown comfortable with darkness, and darkness does not give up its territory without a fight. You need to know exactly what is about to happen. You need to know that the moment you decided to be sovereign, the moment you decided to straighten the Avon, a signal went out in the spiritual realm. The immune system of your ancestry has been activated to expel you. They will not attack you with swords and spears. They will attack you with guilt. They will attack you with crisis. They will attack you with the voices of the people you love the most. Not this truth in your mind. The enemy has prepared 7 specific forms of confrontation to drag you back down to the set point. He wants to reset the thermostat. He wants to bend you back into the gutter. And if you do not recognize these 7 attacks, you will think you are crazy. You will think you have failed. You will think God has left you. But God has not left you. He is handing you the battle plan. He is handing you the blueprint to dismantle the immune system of the failure code. Are you ready to see the weapons formed against you so that you can condemn them? Are you ready to identify the 7 faces of the enemy standing between you and the new timeline? Because the first attack usually comes from the place you least expect. It comes from the dinner table. Let us sit at that dinner table for a moment. You know the one. It is not necessarily a physical table. It is the energetic space where you interact with your history. You sit there, excited about the new vision God has given you, excited about the new standards you are setting, and suddenly someone says something that punctures your balloon, or you get a phone call that ruins your week, or a feeling of dread washes over you for no reason. You have often asked yourself, is this just bad luck? Is this just random chaos? Or am I under attack? Here is the answer that closes the loop on your confusion. Random bad luck is chaotic and meaningless, but ancestral pushback is strategic and timed. It happens exactly when you make a move to break the code. It is predictable. To help you discern this, I am going to hand you the classified playbook of the enemy. These are the 7 forms of ancestral pushback. This is your checklist. If you are experiencing 3 or more of these right now, do not be afraid. Be confident. It means you are winning. It means the immune system of the failure code has identified you as a threat and is trying to expel you. Form number 1 is the guilt trip. This is the most subtle and effective weapon against a chosen one because you have a heart of flesh. You feel deeply. The enemy knows this. So, when you start to rise, when you start to set boundaries, the people closest to you, your family, your old friends, will not applaud you. They will accuse you. They will say things like, "You have changed. You act like you are better than us now. You are leaving us behind." Why does the enemy use this? Because he wants you to lower your frequency back down to match theirs. He wants you to apologize for your growth. He wants you to feel that your success is a betrayal of your tribe. How do you win? You must realize that you are not leaving them behind. You are going ahead to clear a path. You cannot help them if you stay stuck with them. You win by refusing to apologize for your elevation. You love them, but you do not lower yourself for them. Form number 2 is the sudden crisis. This is the mechanical manifestation of spiritual resistance. You decide to tithe, and your car breaks down. You decide to start the business, and the washing machine floods the house. You decide to fast, and a family emergency demands your attention. Why this attack? It is a distraction tactic. The enemy wants you to take your eyes off the vision and focus on the fires. He wants to drain your resources, so you feel like you cannot afford to be sovereign. How do you win? You recognize it as a smoke bomb. You fix the car, you fix the leak, but you do not fix your focus. You do not stop the mission. You treat the crisis like a gnat, not a giant. Form number 3 is the ghost of the past. This is when an ex-partner, an old addiction, or an old habit resurfaces out of nowhere. You haven't heard from them in 3 years, but the day you commit to your new future, they text you. Just checking in. Why? Because they are the familiar chains. The ancestral code wants to pull you back into a cycle you have already broken. It is testing your resolve. It is asking, are you really done with this? How do you win? You do not engage. You do not reply. You do not entertain the nostalgia. You recognize that they are not a person missing you. They are a portal trying to reopen. You keep the door shut and double lock it. Form number 4 is the isolation chamber. This is when people start leaving your life without a clear explanation. Friends stop calling. Allies become distant. You feel completely alone. Why? The enemy wants you to panic. He wants you to think you are doing something wrong so that you will scramble to get people back. He knows that if he can surround you with the wrong people, he can dilute your power. How do you win? You reframe the isolation. This is not rejection. This is protection. God is clearing the room because the people who could handle your history cannot handle your destiny. He is removing the scaffolding so the building can stand on its own. Embrace the solitude. It is the VIP section of the spirit. Form number 5 is the imposter voice. This is an internal attack. It is a sudden, overwhelming wave of insecurity that hits you right when you are about to step into your authority. A voice in your head says, "Who do you think you are? You are a fraud. You are going to fail, just like your father did." Why? This is the voice of the ancestral ceiling. It is the recorded message of the bloodline trying to program you back into smallness. How do you win? You do not argue with the voice, you replace it. You answer with the blood of Jesus and the track record of your survival. You tell that voice, "I am not my father. I am the first one." Form number 6 is the leveling. This is when people try to humble you. They make snide comments about your dreams. They call you unrealistic. They try to humble you back into your place. Why? Because your rising exposes their settling. Your light irritates their demons. How do you win? You realize that their criticism is a confession of their own insecurity. You do not shrink to make them comfortable. You shine brighter. And finally, form number 7. This is the most dangerous one. This is the false comfort. Just when you are ready to break through to the palace, the enemy offers you a really nice prison cell. You get a job offer that is good, but not great. You meet someone who is nice, but not your divine spouse. It is a temptation to settle for good enough instead of God's best. Why? Because if you settle, you stop fighting. If you get comfortable in Egypt, you will never make it to Canaan. This is how the enemy neutralizes a threat without a fight. He buys you off with a counterfeit peace. How do you win? You ask the hard question. Does this fulfill the promise, or does it just relieve the pressure? If it only relieves the pressure, it is a trap. You reject the good to wait for the best. Chosen one. Look at this list. How many of these are you fighting right now? If you see your life in this checklist, then congratulations. You are not crazy. You are not unlucky. You are under strategic bombardment because you are over the target. Now that you have the checklist, now that you can identify the enemy, you need a weapon. You need a way to fight back that doesn't exhaust you. You cannot fight these battles with your flesh. You cannot fight them by arguing with your family or stressing over your car. You have to fight them with your posture. I am going to teach you the Sovereignty Protocol. This is a 3-step internal maneuver that shifts you from victim to victor in seconds. You can do this anywhere. You can do this in the middle of a crisis. Step 1 is stop asking. For years, your prayer life has sounded like a beggar's plea. God, please help me. God, please fix this. God, please take this away. When you are breaking a code, you do not ask. You decree. A king does not ask his army to move. He commands it. I want you to shift your internal dialogue right now. Stop asking God to remove the mountain. Start speaking to the mountain. Jesus said, "Say to this mountain, be thou removed." Instead of saying, "God, please help me with this bill," say, "I decree that my resources are blessed. I command the devourer to flee. I call forth the provision that is already mine." This shifts your frequency from desperation to authority. Step 2 is the royal posture. This is a mental action I want you to perform right now. I want you to visualize your spirit man inside your body. How is he standing? Is he slumped over? Is he curling up in a ball? In your imagination, I want you to straighten him up. Visualize a crown of heavy gold being placed on your head. Feel the weight of it. If you move your head too fast in panic, the crown will fall. To keep a crown on, you must move with intention. You must walk with dignity. You must hold your head high. When the crisis hits, when the text message comes, do not react. Pause. Adjust your imaginary crown. Remember who you are. A ruler does not run. A ruler reigns. Step 3 is the altar of exchange. This is the final step. When the fear comes, the fear of the guilt trip, the fear of the crisis, do not suppress it. In your mind, visualize an altar of fire in front of you. Take that fear, take that anxiety, visualizing it as a black stone in your hand, and physically, in your mind, place it on the fire. Watch it burn, and as it burns, say this: I exchange this fear for power. I exchange this worry for strategy. Do this every single time the pushback comes. Stop asking, adjust your crown, exchange the fear. Does this actually work? Is this just a mental trick, or does it move reality? Let me tell you about David. David is a chosen one, just like you. He was the first one in his family attempting to break a poverty cycle that had lasted for 4 generations. His father died in debt. His grandfather died in debt. David had a vision for a business that would change everything. He worked on it for 2 years. He was close. He was days away from launching. And then, the 7 forms of pushback hit him all at once. Form number 2 struck. His car engine blew up. A $3,000 repair he didn't have. Form number 1 struck. His mother called him, crying, saying he was wasting his time and he should just get a real job to help the family. And then, the most deadly one, form number 7 struck. The false comfort. An old boss called him and offered him a safe, stable job. It paid enough to fix the car. It paid enough to silence his mother. It was the perfect escape hatch. David held that contract in his hand. He was shaking. Everything in his biology screamed, "Sign it. Be safe. Stop fighting." He almost did. He picked up the pen, but then he remembered the sovereignty protocol. He realized he was standing at the ancestral ceiling. He realized that signing that paper was an agreement with the failure code. He put the pen down. He went into his room. He didn't ask God to fix the car. He didn't ask God to change his mother. He entered step 1. He decreed, "I am a cycle breaker. I am the lender, not the borrower. This business is sanctioned by heaven." He entered step 2. He visualized the crown. He told himself, "A king does not retreat to Egypt just because he is hungry." He entered step 3. He took the terror of being broke, the terror of disappointing his mother, and he laid it on the altar. He declined the job. 3 days later, the pushback broke. It didn't just fade, it snapped. A client he had pitched to months ago called him. They didn't just want his service, they wanted a partnership. The deposit they sent him was 5 times the salary of the job he turned down. He fixed the car, he blessed his mother, and he launched the business. David didn't survive because he was lucky. He survived because he recognized the attack and he used the protocol. He realized that the crisis was not a stop sign. It was the final exam. And you are taking that same exam right now. You have the checklist. You know the forms. You have the protocol. You know how to stand. You have learned how to fight. You have learned how to rule in the dark. You have learned how to break the code. But fighting is exhausting. Ruling takes energy. And God knows that you cannot run on adrenaline forever. You have won the war, chosen one, but a victory without a spoil is just survival. And God did not call you to just survive 2026. He called you to plunder the enemy. He called you to recover everything that was stolen, with interest. You see, winning the battle is only half the story. The other half is what happens after the smoke clears. There is an ancient spiritual law that kicks in only for those who have completed the impossible task. It is a word that is about to become your reality. It is the word shalom. And when you understand what shalom really means, you will understand why the enemy tried so hard to stop you from reaching this next chapter. The word is shalom. It is a Hebrew word that carries a weight of glory that the English language simply cannot handle. When you read your Bible, you see the word restore. In Joel chapter 2, verse 25, God says, "I will restore to you the years that the locust hath eaten, But restore is too weak of a word. Restore sounds like fixing a dent in a car. It sounds like patching up a hole in a wall. Shalom means something far more aggressive. Shalom is a legal term in the courts of heaven. It means to make whole. It means to pay restitution. It means to finish what was started. But here is the secret that unlocks the wealth of 2026. Under biblical law, if a thief is caught, he does not just return what he stole. He has to pay it back sevenfold. He has to pay interest. Chosen one, listen to the math of heaven. You are worried about the time you lost. You are looking at the calendar and panicking because you think you are 10 years behind. You think, even if God helps me now, I am too old. I missed the window. The opportunity is gone. That is linear thinking. That is human math. But God does not operate in Chronos time. He operates in Kairos time. The enemy didn't just steal your time. He stole your harvest. He was the thief. And because you have now caught him, because you have broken the code and identified the theft, the enemy is legally required to shalom. He is required to pay you back for the distress, for the tears, and for the delay. This is the divine logic of the 2026 timeline. It is the law of acceleration. Imagine a slingshot. For the last few years, you have felt like you were being pulled backward. The harder you prayed, the further backward you went. You watched everyone else running forward while you were being dragged into the dark. You thought it was a setback. But in the hand of God, a pullback is not a setback. It is a setup for a shot. The further you are pulled back, the greater the potential energy. The further you are pulled back, the faster and farther you will fly when the finger of God finally releases you. 2026 is the release of the slingshot. This is how God answers the question of the lost years. He is going to give you acceleration. You are going to accomplish in the next 12 months what it takes normal people 12 years to do. Doors that usually take a decade to pry open will swing wide on their hinges the moment you walk up to them. Amos chapter 9 verse 13 prophesies this. Behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that the plowman shall overtake the reaper. Usually there is a long gap between plowing and reaping. You plant the seed, you wait, you water, you wait some more. But in the season of Shalom, the acceleration is so fast that before you can even finish planting the seed, the harvest is already tapping you on the shoulder. This is the promise of 2026. You are not starting over, you are starting propelled. But, and this is a critical warning, you cannot enter a season of acceleration with extra weight. You cannot fly in a slingshot if you are holding on to rocks. The impossible task is done. The code is broken. The check has been signed. But before the deposit clears, you have a responsibility. You have a 40-day window of preparation. In ancient times, a king did not just wake up and put on a crown. There was a coronation preparation. There was a purification. I am giving you the coronation prep framework. These are 3 specific movements you need to make over the next 40 days to prepare your vessel for the overflow of Shalom. Movement 1 is the royal detox. I am not talking about a juice cleanse. I am talking about an environmental detox. The failure code of your ancestors has lived in your house for too long. It is attached to objects. It is attached to clutter. In your mind, I want you to walk through your house right now. Is there an object given to you by someone who cursed you? Is there a pile of paperwork that represents your procrastination? Is there a room that feels heavy? For the next 40 days, you must clean your physical environment. When you throw out the physical clutter, you are signaling to the spirit realm that you are making room for the new. You are evicting the old atmosphere. If you want the Shalom of God to fill your house, You must give him space to sit down. Movement 2 is strategic silence. This is where most chosen ones fail. You get a glimpse of the promise, you feel the excitement of the acceleration, and you run and tell everyone. You tell your family, you tell your co-workers, you post it on social media, and the next day, it dies. Why? Because you exposed a seed to the sun before it had roots. Look at Zechariah in the Bible. When the angel told him he would have a son, John the Baptist, Zechariah asked a question of doubt, and the angel struck him mute. He couldn't speak until the baby was born. Why did God silence him? To punish him? No, to protect the baby. God knew that if Zechariah kept talking, his doubt and the doubt of the people around him would abort the miracle. For the next 40 days, you are under a gag order from heaven regarding your next move. Do not tell them about the business. Do not tell them about the investment. Do not tell them about the restoration. The miscarriage of your destiny happens in your mouth. Protect the baby. Let the results speak for you in 2026. Let them see the fruit before they hear the announcement. Movement 3 is the prophetic seed. You cannot reap a harvest where you have not sown a seed. I am not telling you to give money to this channel. I am telling you to listen to the Holy Spirit. In the season of Shalom, you must prime the pump. You need to perform an act of faith that proves you believe the drought is over. Maybe it is buying a suit for the job you don't have yet. Maybe it is writing the first chapter of the book. Maybe it is sowing a financial seed into a ministry that feeds you. It is not about the amount. It is about the frequency. It is about telling the universe, I am open for business. I am ready to receive. Chosen one. Breathe. Can you feel the shift? The heaviness of the impossible task is lifting. The pressure of the ancestral code is breaking. You did it. You really did it. You stood in the gap. You took the hits. You bore the silence. And you didn't quit. You are the first one. The history books of your lineage will be divided into 2 parts. Before you and after you. You have the identity. You have the authority. You have the promise. Everything is ready. The table is set in the presence of your enemies. The cup is running over. But there is one final thing. The door to the new timeline is open, but you cannot walk through it wearing the grave clothes of the past season. You cannot walk into 2026 with the residue of the trauma still clinging to your spirit. We need to wash you. We need to seal this word so that no devil in hell can snatch it away from you when this video ends. We need to perform the final activation ceremony. This is not just a prayer, it is a spiritual contract. It is the moment we stamp your passport for the new country you are entering. Are you ready to lock this in forever? Are you ready to lock this in forever? Good. Because we are standing at the very edge of the border. Behind you is the wilderness you have walked for years. It is filled with the dry bones of your disappointments. It is filled with the memories of the people who left you. Ahead of you is the 2026 timeline. It is green. It is fertile. It is the land of Shalom. But before we initiate the activation ceremony, I have one final, terrifying warning for you. It is a warning that has saved my life, and it will save yours. Do not look back. Remember Lot's wife. She was rescued from Sodom. The angels held her hand. She was out of the danger zone. She was on her way to safety. But she made one fatal mistake. She looked back, and the Bible says she turned into a pillar of salt. Why salt? Because salt is a preservative. When she looked back at her past, she was preserved in it. She was frozen in the moment of her trauma. She never made it to the new city because she was too attached to the old pain. Chosen one. There is a seduction in suffering. You have been fighting the ancestral code for so long that you have become comfortable with the war. You have identified as a warrior for so long that you don't know who you are without a battle. Peace feels boring to you. Stability feels suspicious to you. So, as you step into this new season of sovereignty, the enemy will try to tempt you with the familiar chaos of Egypt. He will try to make you look back. Do not do it. Do not romanticize the struggle. Do not tell war stories to people who are building peace. Burn the ships. Burn the bridge. Burn the memory of the rejection. You are not a survivor anymore. You are a king. And kings do not look at the mud they climbed out of. They look at the territory they are about to rule. Now, shift your focus. We are going to seal this word. We are going to close the loop of validation that brought you here. I want you to prepare your spirit. If you can, sit up straight. If you are driving, grip the wheel with authority. If you are lying down, visualize yourself standing tall in the spirit realm. This is not a passive prayer. This is a coronation. This is a legal transaction in the courts of heaven where we officially register you as the first one who broke the code. Let us begin. In the mighty, matchless, and sovereign name of the Creator of all things, I declare that the portals of heaven are open over this specific moment. I declare that space and time are bending right now to accommodate the destiny of the one listening to my voice. This is not a YouTube video. This is a divine appointment. Father, we come before you, not as beggars, but as heirs. We acknowledge the journey. I acknowledge the tears that no one saw. I acknowledge the silent screams in the middle of the night. I acknowledge the pain of being the black sheep, the misunderstanding of being the pioneer. God, you saw them when they wanted to quit. You saw them when the pressure of the ancestral code nearly crushed them. You saw them holding the line for their bloodline when everyone else had surrendered to the darkness. And you said, finally. So today, we stand on that word. I formally seal the revelation of sovereignty into their spirit. I bind the spirit of the victim, and I cast it out of their mind forever. I declare that they will no longer wait for permission to rule. They will step into the darkness and command the light. I seal the sovereignty protocol. I decree that when the crisis comes, they will not panic. They will stop asking. They will adjust their crown, and they will exchange their fear for power. I rebuke the 7 forms of ancestral pushback. I speak to the spirit of the guilt trip. You have no power here. I speak to the spirit of isolation. You cannot break them. I speak to the spirit of false comfort. We reject you. We will not settle for Ishmael when Isaac is coming. I take the spiritual hammer of the word and I smash the ancestral ceiling that has hovered over their family for generations. I declare that the failure code is broken. The cycle of divorce ends here. The cycle of poverty ends here. The cycle of addiction ends here. It stops with them. And now, I activate the promise of 2026. I decree the release of Shalom. I command the thief to return 7-fold everything that was stolen from this chosen one. For every year they spent in the wilderness, give them 10 years of acceleration. For every friend who betrayed them, give them a legion of angels who will serve them. For every dollar that was devoured, release the hidden treasures of darkness. I speak to the womb of their destiny. I command the seeds of greatness to germinate now. I declare that in the next 40 days, they will see the cloud the size of a man's hand. They will see the first drops of the deluge. Chosen one, open your hands in the Spirit. Receive the mantle of the first one. It is heavy, but you have the strength to carry it. You are the Joseph of your house. You are the David of your lineage. I commission you to walk in this new authority. Do not apologize for your power. Do not shrink back to fit the room. Expand the room to fit you. Will you carry this? Will you hold the line? Will you be the one who changes the history of your name? If your spirit says yes, then speak it into the atmosphere. Say, I receive it. Heaven has heard you. The court is adjourned. The decree is signed. The enemy is defeated. And you are crowned. The impossible task is complete. Now, stand up, dry your eyes. There is work to do. There is a kingdom to build. And there is a life of shalom waiting for you to live it. You are dismissed from the wilderness. Walk into your promise.